You won't believe this, but the moment you finally stop chasing them is the exact moment they start feeling your absence, like a quiet storm inside their chest. And suddenly, the same person who once ignored your messages, who took hours to reply, who made you feel like an option, begins to wonder why you're no longer there, why your energy disappeared, why the silence feels heavier than your presence ever did. And this is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is something much deeper. Something Carl Jung himself tried to explain about human psychology and the unconscious mind. Because the truth is, when you chase someone, you are unknowingly giving them power. You are feeding their ego. You are telling their subconscious, I am available. I am here. I will wait. And the human mind, it does not value what is always available. It only starts craving what it feels it might lose. And that's where everything changes. Because the moment you step back, the moment you detach, the moment you finally say, enough, something shifts inside them, something awakens, and they begin to feel something they haven't felt before. Your absence, and absence is powerful, far more powerful than presence, because presence can be ignored. But absence creates questions. Absence creates doubt. Absence creates emotional tension that they cannot easily escape. And suddenly, they start checking your profile. They start rereading old messages. They start wondering if you've moved on, if you've found someone else, if you've forgotten them. And this is where their ego begins to crack. Because earlier, they were certain you would stay. They were certain you would keep chasing. They were certain they had control. But now, that certainty is gone, replaced with uncertainty. And uncertainty is what drives obsession. Carl Jung believed that what we suppress or take for granted in our conscious mind grows stronger in our unconscious. And when you stop chasing, you are no longer feeding their conscious validation. So their unconscious begins to search for you, to crave you, to pull them back toward you without them even understanding why. And this is why they start behaving differently. They might suddenly text you out of nowhere. They might try to accidentally appear in your life again. They might even act confused, hot and cold, because they themselves don't fully understand what's happening inside them. They just know something feels missing, something feels off, something feels like they're losing control. And here's the part most people don't realize. When you were chasing them, they never had the chance to feel your value, because you were always there, always giving, always proving yourself. But now, in your silence, in your distance, in your absence, your value becomes visible, because now they have something to compare. Now they feel the difference between having you and not having you. And that difference is what starts pulling them back. But here's the deeper truth, and it might hurt to hear. They are not just chasing you. They are chasing the feeling you gave them, the attention, the validation, the emotional safety. And when that disappears, they don't just miss you. They miss how you made them feel about themselves. And that realization begins to consume them slowly, quietly, deeply. And this is why, the moment you stop chasing, they start chasing you. But the real question is, what happens next? What happens when they come back? What happens when the person who once ignored you suddenly wants your attention again? Will you fall back into the same pattern? Or will you finally understand the power you hold now? And when they finally come back, it won't always be obvious. It won't always be a clear apology or a direct confession. Sometimes it will be subtle, almost confusing, a random message, a reaction to your story, a simple hey, as if nothing ever happened. And in that moment, your heart might race. Your mind might start replaying everything, and a part of you will want to respond instantly, to go back to how things were, to feel that connection again. But this is where everything is tested. This is where your growth is measured. Because the moment you respond the same way as before, the entire dynamic resets, and you lose the power you just gained. Carl Jung once suggested that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this is exactly what happens in relationships like this. You think it's destiny. You think it's love pulling you back together. But in reality, it's a pattern, a cycle, a psychological loop that keeps repeating until you become aware of it. Because the truth is, they didn't suddenly change overnight. They didn't magically realize your worth in a moment. What they felt was loss. What they felt was absence. What they felt was the discomfort of not having control anymore. And that discomfort is what brought them back, not necessarily deep emotional growth. And this is why many people fall into the same trap again. Because when the person returns, they return with just enough attention to pull you back in. Just enough effort to make you believe things will be different. But not enough consistency to truly change the relationship. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin chasing again. You begin overthinking again. You begin giving more than you receive again. And the cycle starts all over, and this is where most people lose themselves. Because they mistake temporary attention for real love. They mistake confusion for connection. They mistake emotional intensity for something meaningful. But Jung's idea of the shadow self explains something deeper here. The reason you were chasing them in the first place is not just because of them. It's because of something within you. Something unhealed. Something that seeks validation. Something that feels incomplete. And when they pull away, it triggers that part of you. It makes you feel like you need to prove your worth. Like you need to win them back. Like you need their attention to feel complete again. And that is not love. That is attachment. That is your shadow trying to fill a void, and the moment you stop chasing, you are not just changing their behavior, you are confronting your own shadow. You are choosing yourself over your fear of losing them. You are saying, I am enough, even if they walk away. And that is powerful. That is rare, and that is what truly shifts everything. Because now, when they come back, you see them differently. You notice the patterns. You notice the inconsistency. You notice the lack of real effort. And instead of reacting emotionally, you begin to observe, you begin to understand. You begin to see the truth that was always there, but hidden beneath your desire. And this is where your power grows even stronger. Because now you are no longer chasing, but you are also no longer waiting. You are not sitting there hoping they will change. You are not depending on their actions to feel something. You are simply detached, and detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is peace. It is knowing that your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. And ironically, this is the version of you they start chasing the most. The version that no longer needs them. The version that is no longer trying to impress them. The version that is simply existing in their own energy. Because that energy is magnetic, it is rare, it is something they cannot easily find again. And this is why they become more persistent, more curious, more emotionally invested, because now they are the one trying to understand you. They are the one trying to get your attention. They are the one feeling the uncertainty you once felt. But here's the truth you must not ignore. Just because they are chasing you now does not mean they deserve you now. And this is the moment where you must decide, not from emotion, not from loneliness, but from awareness. Do you go back to what once broke you, or do you move forward into something that truly values you? And this is where the real transformation begins, because now, for the first time, the power is in your hands, not in a manipulative way, not in a game-playing way, but in a deeply aware, emotionally grounded way, and this is something most people never reach. Because they get pulled back too quickly, they mistake attention for change. They confuse someone coming back with someone becoming better. But you are standing at a different level now. You are no longer the version of yourself that begged for replies, that waited for consistency, that overanalyzed every word and every silence. You are the version that has seen the truth, that has felt the emptiness of chasing someone who was never fully present. And that awareness, it changes everything, because now when they return, you don't feel the same urgency. You don't feel that desperate pull to respond instantly. Instead, you feel calm, you feel observant, you feel in control of your own emotions. And that's when you begin to notice something even deeper. You begin to see their behavior clearly, without illusion, without emotional distortion. You notice if their effort is real or temporary, if their words match their actions, or if it's just another cycle beginning again. And this clarity is your greatest strength. Because now you are not reacting, you are choosing. And Carl Jung believed that true growth comes from integrating your shadow, from understanding the parts of yourself that once controlled you unconsciously. And this is exactly what you've done. You've faced the part of you that feared abandonment, the part that needed validation, the part that believed love had to be chased and earned. And by stepping away, by choosing silence, by choosing yourself, you've broken that illusion, and now you are free in a way you weren't before. And here's the truth most people never realize. When someone starts chasing you after you stop chasing them, it doesn't automatically mean it's love. Sometimes it means they lost control. Sometimes it means their ego is triggered. Sometimes it means they are not used to losing someone who once gave them everything so easily. And that's why they come back. Not always because they've changed, but because the dynamic has changed. And this is why your decision now matters more than anything. Because you are not just deciding about them. You are deciding about yourself, about your standards, about your worth, about the kind of love you are willing to accept. And this is where many people fail, because they go back to what feels familiar, even if it hurts. Because familiarity feels safer than the unknown. But you must ask yourself, is going back really growth? Or is it just comfort? Is it really love? Or is it just attachment disguised as something deeper? And the answer to that question will define everything that comes next. Because the truth is, the right person will never make you feel like you have to chase them. They will never create confusion. They will never make you question your worth. Real connection does not require you to lose yourself. It does not demand constant proving. It flows naturally, consistently, effortlessly. And once you experience that level of clarity within yourself, you stop settling for anything less. And suddenly, the person who once had all the power over your emotions becomes just another option in your life, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself more. And that is the ultimate shift. That is the moment where you truly win. Not by making them chase you, not by getting their attention back, but by no longer needing it at all. And ironically, that is when they feel your absence the most. That is when they realize what they lost. That is when they understand your value. But by then, you are no longer the same person they once knew. You are someone who has grown, someone who has awakened, someone who has chosen themselves. And that is something they can chase, but may never truly have again. Asterisk.